Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Carmen Villegas. I'm the Director of Business Development for Exclusive Networks. I work really closely with Bitglass team to ensure that we provide the service and supports we need. Prior to Exclusive Networks, I managed at the partner programs over at Arrowhive Networks. And today you'll be hearing from myself and John Pepler. John is the Worldwide Channel VP of Bitglass, the next-gen CASB solution provider. Prior to Bitglass, John ran the channels and mantled security for over 20 years, and John has been passionate about building world-class channel programs and creating winning partnerships. These actions have created tremendous growth for companies such as Proofpoint, Recommind, and Broadvision. Another fun fact about John is CRN named him one of the 100 top people you should know. Next, I'll introduce you a little bit for those of you who are new to Exclusive Networks. Exclusive Networks, we are a global value-added distributor, and we focus on cloud security and cybersecurity with over 62 offices worldwide. And all of our offices can handle international and deals and logistics worldwide. We also offer pre-configuration and staging services, in addition to rapid turnaround quotes. This is due to the direct access that you have to our account managers, our quoting, renewals, and our support teams. And we exclusively choose all of our vendors who are leaders and disruptive to the industry. And most importantly, they integrate with each other. Our financing options cover from a variety of projects and technologies that are offered by our vendors. Our technical and marketing sales support teams also have the capability and capacity to have a global reach. We support our partners and community by providing certification training sessions. This is on a group and individual level. By providing a variety of pre- and post-sale support, such as security migration, staging services, and vulnerability testing, and more. Our teams help build qualified leads and closing deals. So please feel free to utilize me and our exclusive team as brand contacts, and we're here to support you. I'll now hand it over to John, and he'll introduce you to Bitglass.
Carmen, thank you. Again, my name is John Pepler. I run channels for Bitglass, and quite excited to be talking today to give you an introduction to Bitglass and also talk about what is driving CASB's tremendous growth. Gartner put in their last Magic Quadrant on CASB. They have never seen a faster growing security segment, which is fantastic. And we know that firsthand here at Bitglass. Our company has doubled in size this year. We've tripled our sales force. The opportunity is amazing. And so what is driving all this? Well, in order to understand where we're at today, we actually have to look a bit into the past. Our beginnings are in the past. It used to be that all your applications, all your data, everything was stored on premise. Everything was behind the corporate firewall on the corporate network. You could rest assured you knew where your data was. You knew who was accessing it. All of your employees worked on premise. If you had to, you could walk down the hall and see them and have immediate access to the devices and talk to them. That was very helpful, but it didn't stay that way. There's two major trends that have been occurring that have been driving corporate data beyond the firewall. The first is the adoption rate of cloud applications. And it makes sense. These are very flexible, highly reliable. Downtimes are 4 nines, sometimes better, and uptimes, I'm sorry. It makes sense to have somebody else worry about capacity planning. Instead, you have instant flexibility in how much capacity you'll need. The other trend that's driving data beyond the firewall is bring your own devices. So it's not just that we have iPhones and Samsungs and tablets and iPads and Windows and Mac laptops, that's all true, but it's employees' personal devices. There's no shortage of number of devices accessing the corporate data. What happens when you get a new device? You make sure you can go get to all your favorite applications so you can do your work where you want, when you want it. And when you start thinking about all these applications that are off-premise, storing corporate data that's off-premise, being accessed by devices that are not managed by the enterprise, well, that's a really big problem from a security perspective. So the question is, what do you do about that? There's a couple of choices people have. They can rely on the security within the cloud application. A challenge with that is those applications weren't built for security. They were built for securing the app, not necessarily the data. An analogy is if you have more stuff than you can currently put in your home, often you rent a storage locker to store it. Maybe one of your kids are going off to college and you're changing or so forth. The storage locker company is responsible for making sure that locker doesn't burn down, it doesn't flood. It's responsible for, it'll probably make sure that you're safe going from your car to the locker and back again. They're not responsible for the type of lock you actually put on the door to that locker. They're not responsible for who you give that key to, whether or not those people in turn are allowed to duplicate the key, or what happens if the key is lost. Those are all you, the owner of the contents of that locker. That's your responsibility. And so similarly in these cloud applications, while they may be secure and available, they're not responsible for how you're going to manage access to and protect the contents of it. The other thing you might want to do is just, okay, you're going to bring your personal device. I'm going to block any access that you have to that data. I'm not going to allow you to bring your own device here at my company. And the challenge with that is the user experience is incredibly poor. And it takes away from people doing what they want, the most efficient work they can, whenever they can. So a third option is go ahead and let them work in the most efficient manner, but make sure you're protecting the corporate data. And that's where CASB comes into play. Gartner Group, who had said that this is the fastest growing segment ever that they've seen in security, has made some predictions. They're saying that by 2022, 60% of large enterprises will use CASB to govern some cloud services, up from less than 20%. And through 2023, cloud security failures are pretty much going to be the customer's fault. That the applications that are up there, the applications are reliable, the responsibility of the data is the customer. So this is where Bitglass comes in. Bitglass's mission is to protect any data in any cloud application from or to any device, anywhere. Now that's a huge, bold statement. And what Bitglass is doing is it's had to pull in different, we call them pillars of CASB, pull in different functions in order to provide this. You have spent a lot of time and resource to develop policies, practices, layered defense for your data on premise. You should be able to use those same policies and have that same level of protection for when the data is in the cloud. Now, what does it look like for any data, any application, any device, anywhere? This is the framework that Bitglass has come up with. Starting at the top, the any data in any apps, it could be internal apps. It could be major SaaS apps, which a lot of CASB companies do pay attention to. It could also be long tail SaaS apps. These are the ones that are popular in a specific industry, but might not be popular across all industries. It could be infrastructure as a service. Then at the bottom of this chart, we have both managed devices and unmanaged devices. And so the concept of apps, and we're going to talk about sanctioned apps versus unsanctioned apps, the ones you want the employees to use versus the ones that are just going to use. And the concept of managed devices and unmanaged devices is very important. When CASB started, the big question was, what are my people doing out with the cloud? What applications are they accessing? Are they putting data on them? And so the first generation of CASB was called Shadow IT. And basically Shadow IT is taking a look at what data is being accessed, where it's being placed, what applications are being accessed, finding out what's going on. Kind of like taking an aerial photograph of the farm to see if the barn door is open, and if it is open, are the horses in or out, or a combination of either. It's great for looking at what is the current state. It's not great for remediation. That photograph will not close that barn door. That photograph will not identify any horses that went beyond the limit of your photograph. And most CASB providers are stuck in this first generation of support. The reason being that they've been gobbled up by platform providers so that they can add value to the existing platform, and innovation has then stalled. What you're seeing here is what happens when you take a bold mission like any data in any application from to any device anywhere, and you go consistently apply it. These 4 areas, identity, data protection, threat protection, and visibility, is how Bitglass defines. But I'm going to step back for a second and just talk about functionality CASB should have in general. The first is identity and access control. And what you're looking for here is you should be, you want to and you should be controlling your access based on identity. Who is the user? What is their role? How to authenticate them? And then once you've verified and authenticated their identity, the second thing you want to do is control access to data based on content and what device are they using. There's an example here where, let's say Carmen has logged on to an SAP system that her company uses for back office, and she's in Miami and looking at that data, and 10 minutes later she logs into salesforce.com from China. Now logically that's impossible. There's no way to get from Miami to China in 10 minutes. And so this is a case where you should step up the multi-factor authentication, or you should block the second thing, second logon. And so connecting the dots like that is something that you can't do if you're just relying on security from a single application. Instead, you could have a CASB connect all that for you and put that logic into it, behavior analytics into it. The example on the slide is talking about Office 365 with a new unmanaged device, forcing multi-factor authentication for the new device, perhaps blocking OneDrive sync, and then restricting web and email access to what can be actually brought down. The second area of functionality is prevent data leakage. Now, if you have a DLP system on premise, you're familiar with the value of what this provides you. What we're talking about here now is extending those same policies to your data in the cloud. And this is for both data at rest as well as data in transit. Data at rest can be done via something called API integration with a cloud app, and you can scan and make sure things are being done appropriately. You can change permissions so that you encrypt, quarantine, whatever for the next access. Data in transit means real-time controlling, and this is usually done via proxies. If you want to do it for managed devices, a forward proxy works, and that's what some of our competitors have. We have that, but we also have something called reverse proxy. And the beauty of reverse proxy is it's agentless. There's no agent on the device whatsoever. Once you have real-time inline control, you can detect and you can remediate beyond allow or block. Like your CASB should be able to redact, to encrypt, to block, to watermark with callback. That's a feature where the file, when it's open next, will call back to the original location, and you can find out, wait a second, some of my sensitive data files are now overseas, and we don't have people overseas, and do the investigation based on that. So there's a lot of flexibility that that Bitglass CASB can give you with respect to data leak prevention, as much as any of the on-premise solutions allow. Another area of common requirements that people are finding extremely useful, looking to next generation CASB like Bitglass, is threat prevention. Most cloud apps don't have built-in malware protection. When you upload data to that cloud application, it should be checked to make sure no viruses or malware are being uploaded. Because once a cloud application has malware, it's very easy then to propagate it to everyone else that's now grabbing that data and pulling it down. And so it should also check on the way down that malware isn't being distributed. In addition, unwanted user activity must be detected and stopped. This helps with insider threat challenges as well. Another area that the CASB should have is unmanaged app control. And not just like the picture of the farm that I talked about earlier. It should be able to move applications from unsanctioned to sanctioned. It should be able to discover and learn new applications. Our competitors have somewhere in the 15 to 20,000 applications listed in their catalog that they protect. Bitglass is approaching 600,000 applications that we protect. And part of the reason is we have this machine learning automation code that can learn new applications in as little as 10 minutes. and thus even your own applications, when you put them up to the cloud that you wrote yourself, we can protect. And we can do such things as for if you're a company that uses Box, but your end users like to use Dropbox, we can coach them as they're accessing Dropbox from their devices to realize, wait a second, we don't use Dropbox anymore, we use Box. And at some point you could actually block that. You could turn social media into read-only when they're using their devices. Then the last area of protection is mobile data protection. If you're gonna protect any data in any application from or to any device, anywhere, that mobile device actually itself can become a liability if it's lost or stolen. Or when the employee leaves a company. So having the ability to selectively wipe the device or having the ability to completely wipe the device is very important for this whole security strategy of any data, any cloud application, any device. And that is another functionality that Bitglass offers that you don't find with most of the CASB providers. So who's using this? Well, we have hundreds and hundreds of customers, ranging from small organization around the corner to someone like Credit Suisse with 50,000 users, 50 countries. And what they're doing is they're preserving their compliance that they built up as they move to cloud applications. They also have something called regional data sequestration. Think of it as geofencing requirements. In this case, it helps them with their GDPR requirements. And basically it means if an employee in Switzerland puts in data into an application, their coworker in Germany may or may not be able to see that data. It might be encrypted to them, it might be redacted, it might be blocked. We built this functionality during the actual POC and delivered it. So we're at the size where we're very spry and responsive to customer requirements. The net result of the functionality we delivered, we can actually do any type of logical partitioning. It doesn't have to be country. It could be people in sales can put data into Salesforce. People in marketing can't read some of that data. Also unique to them is they have a hybrid cloud deployment. Some of the apps that they were very interested in include Slack. So being able to share data across social applications such as Slack, but then also being able to apply DLP so that certain data can't be shared for that. And it's agentless. Another example of a customer is Community Health Systems, some 100,000 users. This is an environment where it's paramount that people bring their own devices. Doctors are not going to allow an agent to be put on their device, plus they're probably working with multiple providers and there wouldn't be a way to put multiple agents on the device anyway. They would clash into each other. And so they're preserving their HIPAA compliance, and they're also doing some very unique things with respect to bring your own device. Our last customer example is higher education. Northwestern University with 20,000 students and 3,000 faculty members, and being a teaching school of medicine, had lots of compliance concerns that they needed to preserve. And they also have an environment that's very full of bring your own device. And so we were able to help them. We're also able to make sure that these bring your own devices aren't inserting malware maliciously or unintentionally. And again, that malware is not going to other places. So these are a few of the examples. Question is, when is the right time to talk to a customer or prospect about CASB? Well, the first one is very obvious. The customer is defining a CASB project, and this is very common. The amount of folks moving, as we saw with the Gartner quotes, predictions, is huge. While 3-4 years ago, we were still in an education phase, people now know what it is, and they realize that it's something that they need to be responsible for. The application provider is not. Another time is slightly earlier than that, which is they're moving to a critical cloud application. Now, it could be Office 365, G Suite are probably the two most primary drivers for bringing on CASB, but it could be any ubiquitous and popular cloud application. Or it could be one of those long tail applications like Cerner or Util Pro or Cornerstone that's needed for that specific industry and may not be needed other places. It could be the amount of cloud applications. And then last, this one isn't always as people think of first. They already have a CASB, but it's first generation. It's only doing shadow IT. It's telling who's accessing the data. It's using a simple API integration. And they don't realize that they could be doing DLP, that they could be doing device management, that they could be doing all these threat protection, that they could be doing all these other functions. So as a summary, only Bitglass has zero-day security for any app or workload. It's agentless deployment, which means any device. It also means extremely fast deployment. We recently deployed 200,000 users in 2 weeks because it's agentless. The average deployment is 3 weeks. It's real-time data protection. So inline, real-time, agentless architecture. And it's global. We have round-the-world support, and we have 4 nines availability. So I hope that gives you an idea of where the market is, what Bitglass can do, and how we differentiate ourselves compared to the other providers out there. And again, if you remember one thing from this, the differentiator for Bitglass is it's inline, real-time, agentless. And that allows us to protect any data in any cloud application from or to any device anywhere. So thank you for your time. If you want to learn more, just reach out to either Carmen or myself, and the information's here, and we'll have it in the follow-up as well. You can also go to bitglass.com to learn more. And if you like what you see, there's a partner login page, and you can hit apply and give us some information, and we'll get you started on the whole process. Carmen, thank you. Any closing words?
That'll be it. But as John said, you guys have our information. Please feel free to reach out to us if you would like a follow-up meeting and want to learn more, and visit the Bitglass Partner Portal. Have a good day.